Say hello to a new friend on an old road. Take a 2-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.
Hey, good morning, my friends. Today we're going to explore some road trips and a little bit of hiking. With a fellow that I admire greatly, and I get exhausted just following.
Hello, Jim.
This place, Roger Naylor. How are you today, sir? Mr. Naylor, how are you? Hey, Roger. Well, that's kind of interesting. We've got Roger here, but we're not connecting for some reason. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Roger Naylor. He is a new book, Arizona Route 66 Road Trip. This is a great companion guide for anybody thinking of a trip, planning a trip, traveling Route 66. Just as a great book, and it's one of many that really sums up Roger's prolific writing, hiking, speaking, pretty diverse character. Roger, can you hear us okay? Let's see.
Hey, Jim, can you hear me?
Yes, Roger. Yes.
Hold on. Let me have my wife take a look at this.
How about?
I can't hear you.
I gotcha. I love technology, don't you, folks?
So I can't hear him. I don't know if there's... Oh, I just got a text about phone calls. Yeah, that'd be great. Give me a call.
All right, Roger. Let's cut down on the frustration for both of us.
Hello?
Hey, Roger.
Hey, Jim.
You
Sorry you weren't able to hear me?
No, I could hear you fine. You just couldn't seem to hear us.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't.
Well, I love technology, don't you?
I'm sorry. You want me to have my wife take a look at it? Try again?
Oh, if you want to do this by phone, it's okay. The idea is to cut down on the stress as much as we can.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't mind the phone call, but I don't know if that affects the quality or not.
A tad, but not that much. We can do this. We can do this.
All right.
And you know, one of the good things about all this technology when we get these kind of problems, there's two things. We don't have to look for an excuse to drink. And number two, it's incentive to become an Amish farmer.
I like both of them.
Oh, gosh, I appreciate this, Roger, taking time from your schedule. You are a busy fella, and I just admire your proficiency. But I get exhausted just following your exploits.
Well, I've got one of those fortunate lives where I actually, this is what I was doing, and then I realized someone would pay me to do it. So what the heck? I might as well take the money. But I've been rambling around Arizona and eating and hiking and traveling and for 50 years now. And at some point along the way, I just wised up and said, hey, might as well cash the checks.
Well, exactly. And you know, it's funny, isn't it, that we get paid to do this? I used to have people tell me I should be on TV, but I realized they just wanted to turn me off. I love your new book, this Arizona Route 66 road trip.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. I'm pleased with it. Did a my first. I'm just starting a book tour now. Did the first presentation at the Phippen Museum in Prescott over the weekend, and had a completely packed house. They had to turn about 30 people away. I'm sad to say, and a lot of enthusiasm. A lot of people excited about the Route 66 Centennial. And, since this is where Arizona is where the preservation movement began, I wanted to get everyone, ready to go. I want them to be planning their spring and summer road trips across, be part of history, and visit all these great places. So I wanted this book to be very much a nuts and bolts guide about supporting local businesses, the mom and pops. So it's packed with 110 restaurants, 40 motels, 90 activities and events. Just I want them to be out there, supporting the local businesses and having the old-fashioned road trips that we remember from our youth during simpler times.
Simpler times, youth. Both of those seem like distant things, don't they?
They do. But, I think if you can find it still on Route 66 here and there if you know where to look, if you take the time and kind of refocus yourself. That's one of the things that I mentioned in the book is, turn off the GPS. We're talking about technology, or don't use GPS. There's nothing wrong with it. It's great around town. You want to use it to find a restaurant, but do you really want the devil's whisper in your ear telling you where to turn? And you're on a road trip. You're not running errands. You want to use a paper map if you have to, follow signs, get lost, don't be afraid to wander around a little bit, stay off the interstate as much as you can. You have to sometimes, but enjoy the 2 lanes. Don't eat at the same places that you recognize from that you have in your own town. Don't try to avoid the fast foods and the corporate chains and all that. Again, nothing wrong with them. We need those places. I'm not down on them, but on a certain type of road trip, if you want to get back, back before the homogenization of America, when every town was a new adventure, when every town had its own identity, you can still find that. You just have to make a little bit of an effort. So, find a cool neon sign, pull off, stay there that night. Find a cool looking little diner, eat there that day. Try all those things.
Yeah, it's not getting lost is half the fun. Some of the greatest discoveries I've ever made is because I got lost. And some of the most fascinating people I've met along the way.
Yeah, because that's who you find down the back roads and down the weird little turnoffs and stuff. So yeah, you got to wander. That's we're travel has changed so much over the decades. It used to be an adventure. It used to be an experience, and we kind of got into this habit of where travel was just about speed and efficiency. It's just about movement, and where's the fun in that? Where's the adventure in that? And so we have to take that back ourselves. Put aside technology. Let's put some skin back in the game. Let's have some reality. Don't let artificial intelligence tell you where to go. Let your own dumb self tell you where to go.
Well, I think it was Charles Corral, to paraphrase. I remember him saying something about the interstate highway, that it's made it possible to drive coast to coast and see absolutely nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's very much what we want to try to avoid during this, the Route 66 Centennial is such a perfect reminder of that, about how America grew up, about how America learned to travel, and, what it meant to us during certain eras of our history, and what we lost, what we've struggled to bring back, and let's now reap the benefits. Now that it's it's on an upswing in so many places. It's improvements are being made, pieces are still being saved. More and more people are looking for that kind of down home experience. Bygone days aren't completely gone at all. They still live along Route 66. You just have to hunt them down.
I think one of the things that drives this resurgence in Route 66 is we live in such a generic, sterile world. with social media, AI, all these other things, and they're okay to a point. But when you get out on roads like Route 66 and you stay at Earl's in Winslow, and you visit with Angela and Blass, or you're eating at Calico's restaurant in Kingman, it's you meet people, you interact with people, you talk with people, you experience things, and I think there's a real hunger for that.
Absolutely. You can't make memories scrolling through other people's memories on your phone. You have to, you want to put some skin back in the game. You want to get out there. You want to have those tactile experiences. And that's one of the reasons, I focus, I include all the roadside attractions along the way and stuff. Cause I don't want I want the parents to take the kids out of the car, not instead of worrying about what's on the screen or what game they're playing on their phone. So get them in, have them ride an animatronic T-Rex there at Meteor City, or have them go into the Pooseum and see the world's largest collection of fossilized dinosaur poop in Williams. Get on an alpine coaster in Williams, go for a little ride, have those kind of experience, because you need those memories. And yeah, you're absolutely right about when you stay in the mom and pop places. That's when you meet the owners. That's when you meet the people. That's when you go to those restaurants. That's where you have those encounters. I think I included in the book, but one of the places I stopped at and ate it's in the book. It's called Grandpa's Kitchen in Kingman. You're probably quite familiar with it, but first time I was ever in there, I'm just in there having a wonderful meal, and it's, very homey, and it does look like Grandpa's Kitchen. They want you to eat. But the thing that really struck me, the good food and stuff, and it's really crowded, but as one table got up to leave, the waiter yells, "Okay, see you tomorrow." And then a little bit later, another table gets up to leave, and he yells, "All right, see you next week." So it's not only does the place have regulars, but the staff knows their schedule. It's just that's such a little slice of Americana, that kind of experience and stuff. And just overhearing the conversations around there and chatting with the people in each of these places, hearing their stories, that's a wonderful experience. That's the kind you don't have when you stop at a Starbucks to, grab the same thing that you always get, or rush into, go through a McDonald's drive-through. And, again, nothing wrong with those places. We need them, we use them, but take time out when you're on a road trip to experience the new, experience the difference. And that's when you start building those memories, because we all want those memories. We want those moments.
My wife and I have a general rule of thumb about the fast food and chain restaurants. Unless starvation is imminent, we avoid them.
Exactly.
When we travel. You mentioned, I've got a couple things. We talk about the younger folks. There's a generation coming up. And one of the things that fascinates me about Route 66 is you've got to be about my age, right at 70, to have a real association with Route 66 when it was Route 66. So what's driving these younger people, these internationals? And a couple of weeks, February 9th, I've got a young man going to be our guest here on the podcast. He's 13 years old. And when his folks have taken him on road trips, introduced him to different things, and they did a little bit of Route 66 in Illinois. For Christmas, he didn't want video games. He wanted a couple of my books. And
that's great to hear.
And I got to talking to the family a little bit, and I'm going to have him on in a couple of weeks just to get his perspective. What are young people, that a 13-year-old, why in God's name are you interested in Route 66? What's drawing you to this road? I think we need to know those things.
Well, I do, and it gives me hope to hear that. It gives me optimism to hear that. And there's always those pendulum swings from generation to generation. That the younger the next generation kind of rebels a little bit against the previous one and stuff. And so I'm hoping, eventually we've got to hit some kind of backlash against all these, this life on social media, the screen time, the rise of AI, which kind of terrifies me and stuff. And I think at some point people again will want to get more grounded in reality. They'll want to do have the kind of, they'll realize what they've missed out on, or or their parents missed out on, and the experiences that they didn't get to have, and they'll want them themselves. And at least I hope so. I mean, I know that some things kind of disappear forever, and then other things we think might be disappearing kind of rise back up again. And books are a great example of that. When the whole ebook thing came out, there was this fear that, well, there goes bookstores and there goes physical books and everything. And that's not been the case. I think a lot of people use the ebooks and use the e-readers and nothing, that's great. If you're reading Jim's books or my books on a Kindle device or your iPad or whatever, wonderful. That's terrific. But it's still nice to have a physical book in the hand. And, as you have found, and I find when I'm giving the talks and presentation, people still want to buy books. They still want to own books. They still want to read books and stuff. So it's all kind of about the reality of it, about the touch, about having them on your shelf and having something you can own. Just because you've got a bunch of apps on your phone, it's not the same as having a bunch of books on your shelf. And you want those memories lined up too. You want to be able to take those out and look at them and go, oh man, remember when we stopped it for that slice of pie at Westside Lilo's and Seligman there? Wasn't that great? That's what you want to share with someone.
Yeah, and there's just something unnatural about sitting on the toilet with a Kindle. It just doesn't seem.
It does.
Call me
old
fashioned, but it just seems unnatural. Yeah, the whole AI thing. I use it to get framework for some corporate client stuff I write, and I see incredible potential. It is the most fascinating, exciting thing I've ever encountered, and it scares the absolute hell out of me. I literally feel the hair stand up on the back of my neck with this stuff because I can just see such potential for abuse, for dumbing down, you name it. It's scary.
Yeah, it's scary to me, and I'm not tech savvy enough to be able to handle it in any way at all. And I understand that there's a huge potential for it. It can be done, it can be applied in medical instances. It can be applied to all these different areas and stuff. But for me as a writer, again, I can't even get on the podcast here correctly. So obviously I have no technical skills, but I don't know enough to be able to control it. I don't know enough to be able to keep it on a leash. So I can't even let it out to do framework kind of stuff, or, because I have other writer friends say, hey, use it you can have it return emails or do all this. And so I say, I don't know. Once I unleash it, I don't know where it goes or how to keep it under control. So it's just easier for me to not use it at all, not to have it on. And then I know at least every word, every misspelled word or stupid syllable or everything, at least it's mine. I know it's mine. So, and that's, I guess that's just the way I'm an old guy, and that's the way I'll go out, I guess, stuff.
Roger, you hit it on the head. The biggest one in my top 10 list of fears about this AI, you can't keep it on a leash. And there isn't any control. That really boils down to what bothers me the most about it.
Yeah,
it's really scary thing. Yeah, Roger, I wasn't being facetious at all. I have great admiration for your work, and you inspire me a lot. But my gosh, you are so busy all the time, speaking engagements and hiking and sharing you inspire so many people to get out and explore Arizona, not just Route 66, but I can't tell you how many people I've run into that knew about the hiking trails here or different places, that you were the one that inspired them to get out there and do this. And that's
Well,
a legacy.
I appreciate that, Jim, and right back at you as far as inspiring. I told the story before about how much it meant to me. My very first book was Arizona Kicks on Route 66, and I show up at Fun Run there, and that's where you and I first meet. Back 14, 15 years ago or something, and. You just could not have been kinder. You already had probably a dozen books written at that time, and it was just such a pleasure and stuff. And you're so you have such world renown. I'm just this big fish in a little pond here. Arizona is my world. Everything I write essentially is about Arizona. And, I've been in love with this state for more than 50 years and rambling around, hiking and eating and discovering. And I mean, that's why I started doing the travel writing anyway, even when I first moved out here. And, I was writing for newspapers and magazines around the country and writing humor and pop culture. And, but in the meanwhile, I was living such a great life. I'm, hiking, I'm eating in these great little diners, I'm camping under the stars, and I'm thinking, this is what I want to write about. So I started pitching some story ideas to Arizona highways, and lo and behold, pretty soon I'm writing for highways, and I started writing for the Arizona Republic, and then got into, the writing for the Visitor Guide, and then the book started. And, so I've kind of developed a nice little reputation as the Arizona guy. So that's my focus. So, but we live in this incredible state, and I just want everybody to get out and explore it, get out and see all the stuff that's in our backyard. We're a state that has one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, just an hour away from the most famous highway in the world. And, we just have such remarkable ability to have whatever season we want, to have whatever scenery we want at any time of the year. And that's just a gift that we shouldn't overlook.
One problem we have is that not enough people realize that there's a small fish in a big pond. They really they don't realize that. And I've always thought of myself that way. Too many people get their head inflated on that. You mentioned every season. Arizona, I've lived out here off and on since 1966. And I never tire of this. It's just one of the most amazing places. You mentioned changing the seasons. From here in Kingman, you go 30 miles one way and say in July, and you can get a sneak preview of hell. And 30 miles, 30 minutes the other way, you can be up in the pine forested Wallapai Mountains.
Well, exactly. I live in the Verde Valley. I kind of live in the central part of the state in Cottonwood. So when I get to the end of my driveway, if I turn left in 45 minutes, I'm hiking in the Sororo, among the Sororos down in the Sonoran Desert, the most biologically diverse desert in the world. And if I turn the other way in 45 minutes, I'm hiking amid the world's largest contiguous ponderosa pine forest at 7,000 feet. I can have a snowball fight and go swimming on the same day. It's just incredible to have those kind of opportunities that, we're never completely away from anything. You can almost always find a 70-degree day somewhere in Arizona, no matter when it is. It's just not something to be overlooked. And as I travel around the state, that's one of the things I find. I meet people that have lived here all their life, but they still haven't gotten out and explored. I said, I mean to get to Oatman, but I haven't. I want to go see the burros, or I meant to stay in La Posada, or I meant to go hiking down in the Chiricahuas or something. And you never know how much time we have. You never know how much what's out there waiting for us. So go now, do it. That's go and experience. I always feel like I'm not a traveler. I don't. I'm a travel writer who hates to travel, because travel to me involves packing suitcases and getting on planes and going someplace. but I'll ramble nonstop. I'll just, like you say, I'm on the go pretty much all the time, because none of that feels like travel. Any part of Arizona, any corner of Arizona, all I got to do is toss my duffel bag in the car and I'm off. And it's all just my backyard. So it's all part of home. It feels wonderful. I knew this was where I was going to be, where I was going to live when I was 18, and I fell in love right away, and nothing's changed.
When I was a kid, people have heard me say this a lot, but we moved not only to Kingman in '66, but we moved out on Oatman Road below Ed's camp. And I thought I thought this was the place they'd warned me about in Sunday school, but it's really, really being, because I was a kid from North Carolina, Tennessee, Michigan, the
goodness,
green places, and all of a sudden I'm out here with all these dry roasted nuts. And it was quite a lifestyle change. But gosh, prolific, doesn't it? Your speaking engagements alone. Gosh, you're everywhere, Roger.
Well, yeah, I'd like to, that's one of the ways to sell the books, is to, make sure that people hear about them. And again, I just like to, I build enough of a reputation that a lot of people want to come out and hear me talk. They see me on television and radio, and, I do a monthly newsletter from my website, and, they come out and follow along, and, they know they'll get some decent travel tips. I'm pretty passionate about what I talk about, so I tend to be fairly entertaining. I guess I'm not one of these authors who just sits there and reads a little bit from the book. I tell them all these great places to go. Here's where you go to hike. Here's where you go to eat. Here's where you go to do, and folks like that. So it's nice to know, and I always get that feedback from a lot of the events. Say, you told us to go to check out this place, and we loved it, and that just means the world to me. No, it's nice. Nothing a writer likes better than to know his words resonate with the audience, that they had an impact, that they improve someone's life in a little tiny way. So, but yeah, so I tend to do a whole bunch of public talks. In fact, I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going to be on the road for about 3 weeks, giving several talks from Phoenix to Tucson. But I do just as many private talks. I do talks to groups and corporations and specific, residents of a certain community and stuff. So it's not open to the public. So I don't even advertise those. And those are only about half as many as I do about as many of those as I do the ones that are open to the public. So it's sometimes I'm doing a couple a day down when I'm in Phoenix and Tucson and so forth. But it's always fun. It's always a pleasure. I'm kind of getting towards the end of my travel writing career. When I'm kind of shifting into, I want to start writing some Arizona fiction. I'm working on a novel right now, and so I'm making the most of it. I'm enjoying it while I can.
Well, to me, it's a simple thing, and you exemplify this very well. We have a responsibility to develop gifts and talents that we've been blessed with, so we can be a blessing unto others. The money kind of takes care of itself. If you get into this game with visions of money dancing in your head, yeah.
You're going to be in for disappointment, I think. You have to do it because you love it, and then it becomes easier. And yeah, you're right. It does take care of itself if you have a good work ethic, if you work hard. And but to tell you the truth, I'm very happy to be towards the end of my career as opposed to the beginning, because again, technology has changed everything so much. It's like having to learn a whole new skill set now. I came up, we're still, typing, you're still writing things on typewriter,
yes,
and mailing them off in a self-addressed stamped envelope and hoping to hear back in a few weeks and stuff from an editor. So, things are really very different now. and in some ways it's, I mean, it's easy to get published because you can, publish your own books. You can publish your own blog. You can create your own space. But it's also much harder to get noticed now, and it's much harder to get paid for it and stuff. So it's, it keeps changing all the time. So.
Yeah, we're one of the old farts here where I remember I started doing this with a 1948 Underwood typewriter and doing the snail mail and all this. And it's easier, like self-publishing, all these different options are out there. Blogs, I write blogs for corporate clients. I've got a marketing company and I write blogs for them, I enjoy the research. But how much can you write about kite stores and mortuaries and pesticide companies? But yeah, the money it's never been there. You have to find ways to support the writing habit through speaking engagements or tours or whatever. And it's really gotten worse. I had a real wake up call during COVID. One of the leading magazines here in the country, automotive publications, through Hemmings. The first article I ever sold to them was 1990, and they paid me $250 for a feature article in 1990. And they're one of the top automotive publications. And during COVID, I was scrambling for money and projects. And so I called the new editor of the magazine, got talking to him, and said he'd love to have me start writing for him again. Now they pay $375 for a feature article. And, 30 years later.
Right. Yeah. No. I get it. I went through the same thing with the newspapers I wrote for. Yeah. I used to get paid more per article when I first started than when I, towards the end there. But, I know how newspapers are just dwindling and, all print media is just really struggling and, trying to find their way in a digital age, and it's getting harder and harder. So, all that advertising revenue is kind of moved out of the print, out of the newspapers and magazines, and moved online for the most part to some degree. So I think we each carved out a different, route to get where we wanted to go, through a little determination and our interest and passion stuff. And that's kind of what you have to do no matter what, I think, is you have to find your own voice. You have to find your own way. There isn't any real obvious path anymore. It's not a matter. I mean, I guess you can certainly try to get hired on at the newspapers and work your way up and stuff. But I think there's always kind of a limitation to that too. But everybody has to kind of chase their own version of this. And, if you're really a writer, if this is something in you, then that's what you have to do. And the obstacles won't matter. I knew I was going to be a writer when I was just a kid. I was 13 and, I was a prolific reader as a kid and much more so than I am now. I'm sad to say I read everything, loved the action and stories and adventures. And when I was 12 or 13, I picked up a book of Mark Twain essays. And that just changed everything. And, these were essays. They had no characters, no shootouts, no dialogue, no anything. But they made me laugh so hard because Twain was the funniest writer to ever live. And they also made me outraged. They made me angry. They made me think about things. It made me see the world in a different light. And that's pretty powerful stuff to a kid. And I knew right then, I said, that's what I'm going to do. I want to make people feel something with my words. And, of course, nobody pays much attention to a kid when he makes a big life announcement. I'm going to be a writer, and but I knew it. There was no plan B. There was no backup. It was this. I didn't know how I was going to be a writer. I took a meandering path to get there. But again, you just kind of find your way. But all along the way, even before I ever started writing for newspapers and magazines and so forth, I was filling notebooks just with scribbling. I wrote constantly, and even once I retire from travel writing is only because I want to try my hand at fiction writing for whatever few years I have left. I have to write. That's every day I need to have the ability to write. Some days you don't write a word, and then other days, and you sit around for hours, and then the last 30 minutes, all of a sudden you knock out 500 words, and you go, that's beautiful. And then other days it comes easy. It's just you never know, but you have to stick with it. That's the primary thing. At least it's guided me, as I inherited a big work ethic from my dad, and I utilize that made me kind of successful during the freelance career, is that I kept my butt in the chair. I stuck with it through the good days and bad days, and you just keep writing.
Yeah, I wrote journals all my life, and I devour books. I still do. I try to read 2 to 4 books a month, and I always wanted to be a writer, but I never thought I would be. I just and then my dearest friend, my wife Judy, she kind of started encouraging me, and I was always told that I had a gift for telling people where to go, and I was also told I could tell stories for hours, even if I was the only one in the room, and still enjoy myself. So I started putting the two together. I noticed the publishing company here. You self-publish, Roger?
Well, in this, the Route 66, the Arizona Route 66 road trip, yeah, that one is self-published because I wanted to get a fast turnaround. I wanted to get it out in time for the centennial. And when all my other books are through traditional publishers, and you know what that kind of turnaround time is like. Sometimes it's 18 months, 2 years. So I knew that it would be coming out like the year after the centennial. And I thought, no, I want to get this out there before, because I feel like there'd be a lot of people, there'd certainly be a lot of Route 66 travelers that I think would enjoy the book, even though they're experienced, because again, it delves into, hey, there's like 30 restaurants in Flag, get off the main drag, check all these places out, all these wonderful mom and pops, and through all the towns. So I think they'll enjoy it, but certainly there'll be some folks that maybe, hear the publicity about Route 66 and the coverage of it, and will want to experience some of it. And now this is a nice little guide for them, because it provides a good history, provides blueprints and stuff. But again, it's just it's the kind you throw in your car and say, okay, well, let's stay here this night, and let's be sure to do this museum, and let's eat here. This burger sounds delicious, and all that. So it's just that real handy dining and travel guides.
This is a perfect book for planning a Route 66 trip in Arizona, and it's a great travel companion. I'm really impressed, and I will be carrying this.
I appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you, man. Well, I know you know most of the places already.
I'm smart enough to realize the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know. So there's always, God bless, there's always room for improvement. We'll have to talk again, because I think this self-publishing intrigues me. I did one book on self-publishing just to see what it was about 10 years ago. It was a little too much labor intensive at the time. And you mentioned when we first met at the Powerhouse, you caught me at an off time. I was having trouble with a publisher. So I wasn't real encouraging talking about publishers at that time. And since then, I keep taking a beating. I just went through another one. Publishers, it's they're necessary, but it's like having sandpaper in your underwear. They just rub you the wrong way sometimes.
Yeah, and again, the roles kind of constantly change. I think a lot of people think, well, once you get a book published, then that's it. You're on easy street. No. It's like, well, all they do is publish it. That's literally it from there on. If you want to sell the copies, you still got to be the one to get out there and, do the promotion and do the talks and do the signings and do all that stuff. And so, there's certainly advantages and disadvantages about both. I mean, I've worked with some three or four different publishers in the past, and many of my books, I love the way they look. When you go through a traditional publisher, if they do a nice job, if they've got a good design department, I mean, the photos are beautiful. The design of the book is great. I love all of that, and then I just get the royalties from it and stuff. But again, I'm the one out promoting stuff. When you self-publish, you have more control. The books are more basic, so they're better for books that don't have a lot of photos, don't have a lot of illustrations, or not. So the plain text is a little easier, a little better. But again, then you've got to work out the distribution. So I mean, you've got to get it in stores. You've got to do all that kind of work if you want, and that's a lot of extra hoops to jump through. But you keep a larger percentage of the money. So it kind of works both ways. This one is great just because, again, I'm traveling Route 66 and I know most of the store owners and stuff. So it's kind of easier for me to kind of sort of set that up. I did one other kind of like you. I did a previous self-published book just because I wanted to try it, and it was during COVID. Like you said, it was time where work was I wasn't that busy. I just had all this time, didn't have a lot of demands. I wasn't traveling as much. And so I was just starting to get back into my humor writing days, and I was writing some short stories, and I just started on that and wrote a few, and pretty soon I had, like 8 or 9 done that I kind of liked. So I thought, well, I'll put them in a little book to kind of do it as a self-published book and do it as a test run. So I take it along, people can buy it through my website and a few stores where they can buy it, when they see me, I have it. And, it's never been a huge seller, but the people who read it really enjoy it, and it kind of gave me the basics of what the self-publishing print on demand was about, because there's different kinds of self-publishing too. There's some of the vanity presses where you can still where a minimum order you have to take a whole bunch of books to do that, but the print on demand is you can do one book if you want. You can do 50 books, whatever. I just order when I get low, and so that's made to become a really nice thing and stuff. But it's all a learning process. The technology is changing so rapidly. You have to sort of try to keep up with it. And I say me, like I'm the one actually doing it. All I have to do is write the damn things. Fortunately, then my poor wife is saddled with having to, do the formatting and the downloading and all that other stuff, and has to cope with that. So she's the real brains behind the outfit. She's the technical savvy there. I just once I write them, I'm finished with them. I say, that's it.
My dearest friend, I tell you, she's up for sainthood. She's put up with me for about 43 years now, and I never would have done any of this without her encouragement, her support. It just never would have happened. Comedy writing, humor. I never tried that, or speaking. I just never thought I could compete with politicians. So I just never went.
You would be perfect. You've got that great folksy delivery and attitude. You'd be great at it, as you're great at everything and stuff. But I just I kind of came up through that. Mark Twain, like I said, was my first influence. And when you're a young guy just starting writing, you kind of whoever you're reading at the time, you're sort of emulating. So I mean, I went through a Hunter Thompson phase and Richard Brautigan phase, and whereas because you're trying to find your own voice, you're just kind of tracking through all these incredible voices that have already led the way, and you think, how can I come up with something different? And eventually you do, but it takes a while. It's very intimidating early on and stuff. But I wrote for radio, syndicated radio shows for a lot of years, and when I still lived in Cincinnati, I worked in radio there and had a little television show of my own, and did stand-up comedy, and so I had to kind of teach myself to write for each medium is different. Writing for radio is very different from writing for magazines, and writing for a newspaper is very different from the magazines. Writing books is different from so you just kind of figure it out along the way. You just teach yourself. I guess probably now you don't have to teach yourself because of AI can teach. But then what do you learn actually if AI is teaching you anything?
Yeah, so. You got I tell you, it's like say that AI is. I find great uses for it, just like a word processor. But even, using a word processor, my spelling skills have deteriorated dramatically since I've been.
Because you lean on it, sure.
And AI is the same way. I see tremendous potential, great things in it, and it's the most terrifying and horrible thing we've ever unleashed. I want to encourage people before we get too carried away. It's real simple, rogernaylor.com. If you need this book, which I think you do, because it's the 250th anniversary of the United States, and what better time to explore the Main Street of America? But also, Roger's, you need inspiration to get out and discover Arizona. Roger's the go-to guy, and it's at rogernaylor.com. I guarantee you'll be inspired to put on some hiking shoes, look for a burger and a cardiologist. And,
you're referring to. I've got a few books kind of like that, but my next one is coming out in just about a month. In February, middle of February, will be out. Then that's Arizona Boots and Burgers, a guide for hungry hikers. This is a brand new edition of an earlier popular book that I had that went out of print when that publisher went out of business. But it's this one features 70 hiking trails and 70 great restaurants, most of them burgers, because nothing better than that. I love a day where you can walk off some calories and then pack them back on again. And so I'm very excited for this book to come out, and I've got so many people that want me to do the TV shows and the radio shows and lead some hiking groups and giving some speaking engagements. So this is, when I first wrote the original Boots and Burgers, this was, more than a dozen years ago or something. I wrote it as a hiking guide. To me, it was a hiking guide. But and because I love hiking. I'm an avid hiker, and I've got a bunch of old hiking books on my shelf. And I think, well, they're great, they're helpful, but they're also really boring. They're just directions. They're just, here's where you go on the trail, here's where you turn stuff. I think, how can something as fun as hiking be so boring to read? And so I wanted to write a book that was more interesting, that kind of reflected what hiking was about. And, you go on a hike and your mind's wandering, you're enjoying the scenery, you're wondering about things. So, it was all packed with all these little sidebars and stuff. And I wanted to include a restaurant, a burger place along the way. Because, again, that's sort of my favorite day, man. If you get on a long hike and then you stop on the way home, you pull into a little diner and you just go, I'm going to have a burger. Because, I hiked 8 miles today. I'm ready. I feel I've earned a burger. I'm hungry, and there's nothing like that. So to me, it was a hiking guide primarily. But then I realized everyone was buying it, and they enjoyed the hiking, but they were buying it for the restaurants, the food stuff. So this one, I kind of I really focused on coming up with some great burgers, some great places, and kind of added the trails onto that. So I think, there's some real gems out there. Some some of the best burgers in the state, some of the great Mexican food, barbecue like Floyd and Company right there in Kingman, and Stuff It Burger in Kingman. Some really some good little places.
You get it this way again. I'll just take you out and show you these. They're putting together the most wonderful trail systems here in the Kingman area.
They are, and I've been an advocate of them for a long time. The Monolith Garden is always one of my favorites.
Yep.
That was featured in the original Boots and Burgers. It's in
Yep.
this version too, and I added a couple of others in the Kingman area and stuff. But yeah, that's and that's one of the things I like to tell people about, because some of my favorite hiking trails are in places where people don't think about hiking all the time. Sedona's great. I see Sedona, the Red Rocks from Sedona out my window here, and they've got 400 miles of hiking trails, so it's really easy to disappear in the backcountry. Really nice. But Lake Havasu City has some terrific hiking trails. Up around Page, they have some really great hiking trails. So all these places where people are going for the water and stuff there, you don't think about, but there's some really beautiful hiking trails in that slick rock country. And the same with Kingman, man, they've done a great job. They starting these trails. There's a nice network of trails, both for hiking and biking, and a lot of people just aren't aware of it. And so it's nice to discover these kind of places.
Yeah, a place that you can get away from the crowd. That they put in a connector up by that White Cliffs Wagon Road here.
Right.
They put trails in now. I can go half mile from my house is the Elks Lodge by the golf course, and it's 3 miles from there to downtown Kingman. And within a half mile, you would swear you're in the deep Arizona wilderness. There's deer, badger, anything. Beautiful, dark, deep canyons and waterfalls, streams, and here you are, just within spitting distance of downtown Kingman.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. That's one of the blessings of Arizona that I think that, people don't appreciate so much. I mean, we have so much open space that we have, that we're surrounded, even in the cities, even in the small towns, mid-sized cities, even, the Phoenix area. I mean, it's just an unheard of place because it's the 5th largest city in the country, and yet they have the McDowell Sonoran Preserve there in Scottsdale has more than 200 miles of trails and deserts, and they have all these the county parks and all throughout the city. So you can still disappear even there and stuff. But for us who live in smaller towns, I'm the same way. I drive down 7-8 minutes from the house. I'm in Dead Horse Ranch State Park. I'm hiking along the river, and then I'm up into the Limestone Hills, and I'm just gone. I can't see a road, I can't see a building, I can't see anything. It's just me and the solitude. And not many people get to experience that in so many of the other states. I grew up in Ohio, and it was nice when you could get to a park, and it wasn't like, we had nice woodlands and stuff in parks. But again, you kind of always knew you were in a park. You were not you never had a taste of wilderness like we do out here so quickly, where we can just fall off the grid when we need to.
Yes, indeed. Roger, I want to thank you. I know you're for taking time for your schedule and from your wife
anytime
today.
For you, Jim.
I always enjoy our visits. You really do encourage me and inspire me to do things. And
well, that's all very mutual. It's just always a pleasure. I cherish our friendship. I wish our paths crossed a little more often and stuff. So I'm hoping this year they will. I know you're going to be all up and down the route and all over the world and stuff, but I'm hoping because I'll be making a few trips to Kingman. I hope that we cut trails sometime soon. Sit down for another burger again.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. There's a little event in Needles coming up that might be, in fact, that might be of interest for you down there. The Route 66 Info Fair is, they're having authors and everybody down at the old El Garces in Needles on February 14th. Nothing says romance like a day in Needles, California.
Yeah, I saw that, and I'd love to. It looks really interesting, and I really want to try out the new book at an event like that. But unfortunately, I'm going to be on the road for 3 weeks right up until that, and then just right after that, I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks. I'm not sure how much. My wife, well, we're coming up on 40 years here, and as patient and tolerant as she is, I mean, she may want to see me at least once out of a 5 or 6 week period. So I don't think I'll be making that one. I'm sorry to say. Are you going?
Yeah, I'm gonna be down there. I've been helping them put that together and organize.
Oh, nice.
Things down there.
Is this a new event for them?
No, they postponed it for a year because they had some issues, but they've done it. This is like the 3rd or 4th year.
Okay.
It's it'd be a lot of fun. And as far as seeing your wife, like I say, it's Valentine's Day, so Valentine's Day and needles. God bless.
There you go. I can sell her on that.
That's a hard sell. We used to call that needless California when I was a kid. Roger, thank you so much for the books and for the inspiration and encouragement. Check out Roger's website. Get signed up for his newsletter at rogernaylor.com. Yeah, you won't, even if you don't live here and you just dream of coming to Arizona, this will help keep those dreams alive and inspire you a tad bit. And if you're out and about on Route 66, it's a book you really need. You really do. Because, if anybody who sees me knows I like to eat, and I'm always up for new places to eat. And there's some good ones in here I got to try.
Well, Jim, thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure, as always. You take care.
You too, sir. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. God bless. I always enjoy my visits with Roger. He is such an inspiration. And this book, Arizona Road Trip, Route 66 Road Trip, really is a great, just a companion guide for planning a trip or getting out on the road. Like I say, we're up on Dynamic Living Radio. Now we've got an agreement with them. Mid-Century Style Magazine now has an embedded player. If you're a website designer and you would like an embedded player for the archived Jim Hinckley's America programs, please let me know. Speaking of Mid-Century Style Magazine, Mary Frances O'Day will be with us next week to talk about mid-century preservation. And then we got some great examples of mid-century preservation on Route 66, the Cactus Inn Motel in McLean, Texas. One of my favorites is the Roadrunner Lodge in Tucumcari, New Mexico. An absolute gem. David Brenner has, my gosh, he's created just an authentic 1960s immersion experience, but with the modern amenities that you come to expect in your travel today. A little bit older than mid-century, of course, we have Connie Eccles out at the Wagon Wheel Motel, and that's always good. And then we have the Enchanted Trails Trading Post and RV Park in Albuquerque, New Mexico. That one gets overlooked a lot. Now, if you're an RVer, well, it's a full-service modern RV park, but it's more. This is an authentic 1940s trading post that blurs that line between past and present. They got some great displays, vintage travel trailers. And Vicky, well, she's good at telling people where to go. She likes doing that as much as I do. And she's been involved with the Route 66 community in New Mexico for decades. We'll give a shout out, of course, to Dina Nelson, State Farm Insurance here in Kingman, and Two Lane America, and Route Trip USA, and Gilligan's Route 66 Tours. All three of these will make sure that you have the best road trip experience. Route Trip USA does the United States and Canada bespoke holiday trips, first class. Austin at Two Lane America, it is a pleasure to work with him. And Gilligan's Route 66 Tours, they have a self-drive option and a caravan option to discover the very, very best of Route 66. Hey, listen, I want to thank everybody who's joining us and supporting us. I have an exciting announcement. I just was doing a little bit of research, and we have passed 10,000. We're closing on 11,000 followers on the Jim Hinckley's America Facebook page. And the reach and engagement of the Jim Hinckley's America Facebook page in December, 349,000 people. We are building quite a community of people that are passionate about the Route 66 experience and the American story. Hey, before I button this up, do you have any questions I can answer for you? Any questions I can answer about Arizona hiking, Roger Naylor, books, Route 66, the Centennial, road trips? Any questions at all, ask away. This has been a lot of fun. If I sound a bit off, I wanted to apologize for that. I've got a tad bit of a cold going here, and that kind of creates a bit of an issue. But RogerNaylor.com, you can get a copy of Arizona Route 66 Road Trip. And I didn't ask Roger, but I'm sure that he'll deface it with a signature for you. My friends, I greatly enjoy doing this. Next week, like I say, we're going to have Mary Frances O'Day from Mid-Century Style magazine. We've got an amazing young man coming up in February 9th, I believe it is. And I'm very, very excited to talk to Pete. This is going to be good. And for me, well, I'll be posting my schedule soon. I've got couple speaking engagements here. I mentioned I'll be in Needles, California for the Route 66 Info Fair. This is going to be a fun event. You know, I tease the folks in Needles a lot, but it's going to be down at the old El Garces Harvey House. And it's going to be a great event, a lot of fun. And February is an absolute perfect time to discover Needles, California. Let's see, in March 25th, I'll be over in Lake Elsinore, California. I have a speaking engagement for the Historical Society there. Any questions, my friends? Anything I can do for you? If not, I will bid you adios. We'll do this again next week. And don't forget, this is a shared adventure. And you share your adventures, and together we create quite a road trip community. So invite your friends and join us again next week. Take care, my friends. We'll send you out with a little bit of road inspiration from Joe, Woody, and the boys of the Road Crew. RoadCrew66.com.
Say hello to a new friend on an old road. Take a 2-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.
Thank you. The Pooseum that Roger had mentioned, it's in Williams. It's actually quite an interesting museum. Whoever thought of the fossilized dinosaur poo, building a museum around that, that's definitely different. Take care, my friends. Vaya con Dios.